Welcome to the Felt Dyslexic podcast. My name is Liz Buckridge. For me, as a dyslexic artist, other artists and creatives have always been number one inspiration. On this podcast, we talk with artists and creatives who share their stories and we gain insight into their process from inspiration to art tips, career building, and more. We're so lucky to listen to the wisdom of Hank Whitin today. I'm so excited to hear about his past and future projects and his insights on life as an artist. Hi, Hank.
Hi.
Thank you for talking with us today.
Oh, you got it.
So, describe the art you make. What medium do you primarily work in, and why do you choose that medium?
Lately, I've been working almost exclusively in oil, but I do what you would consider two-dimensional. So I'm working usually on a surface like a canvas or a wooden panel, and I've painted in acrylic. I've done extensive watercolor, a lot of drawing, a lot of mixed media, but oil is what I have been working in almost for the last 2.5 years, almost exclusively.
So, do you work in other mediums, or that's just it mostly?
Um, I get sort of like while I'm working in that specific medium, I start to think about other projects I could be doing that incorporate other mediums as well. So I don't think in terms of what I've been doing, but lately with the oil, I find that I keep going straight back to it. As a matter of fact, I'll do watercolors as a commission piece or something like that, and I kind of like got that itch, that Jones to go back to oil. So
I get it.
it's been my thing lately.
How did you get into making art?
Um, I was always good at doodling in school when I was a kid, and I, at a fairly young age, like got some pretty good skills going on for like draftsmanship and so forth. So I took art classes in high school, and then I majored in it in college, and then I got a master's of fine art and painting from the Savannah College of Art and Design. So I kind of plowed through.
Mm, I did not know that. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
My parents live in Savannah.
Oh,
Yeah, we
great
visit
city.
SCAD all the time.
Yeah.
Um, how did you get into your specific style?
I don't think I stepped into a style as much as a style kind of like took me on. There's certainly artists that I admired. It's like music. There's musicians that you admire and so forth. Um, and there's some that I definitely try to emulate to a certain degree and so forth. But I think it's kind of like your handwriting. It is what it is. It's like you can't really control what I mean, I can try to paint like somebody else, but it doesn't come across as sincere or authentic.
What themes or subjects inspire you?
Um, well, naked ladies always since like first grade on, but I love lately I've been doing a ton of landscapes. We're kind of surrounded by them right now. And I find that having solitary figures or something that sort of represents a figure, almost like a car or a house, a solitary, um, has sort of been my thing lately. And one of my friends described my paintings as lonely. So I don't know what that says of my personality, but
Oh, okay. So this question is a little bit I don't know how you're going to take it, but
yeah,
I'm dyslexic, and so this
yeah.
podcast and my website is for inspiration for dyslexic people.
Gotcha.
So, do you consider yourself neurodivergent or neurotypical?
I don't really, I mean, until you sent me sort of like a heads up with the questions, I never even really considered that. I've always considered myself a little bit um, off, a little, not off. Let's not say off, but certain things drive me that don't drive like what I would consider the normal person. Now, I've never thought of myself as dyslexic or having any, untypical characteristics, but I've always been driven. And I think that's true with most artists. I think that's with like most creative forces of any sort, whether you're a writer or a musician, poetry is foreign language to me. I can't understand it. But, any of these passions, I think that you're going to be a little bit different than the normal person.
Okay, I get that.
Okay.
Have you faced any challenges or setback in your art career, and how did you overcome them?
uh, well, I almost failed grad school, if that's considered a setback. I did a lot of three-dimensional assemblages at that point, and grad school kind of what I discovered. I was naive when I went from college to grad school that it was going to sort of be a continuation of building up your skill level and honing in your style and so forth. And what I discovered, and I went to grad school in 1991, I think it was the year that Nirvana played Saturday Night Live the first time. I remember it was my first weekend down in Savannah. So if that makes any sense to anybody. But what I found in grad school was that there was a real push of like what your personal philosophy, who you were as an artist, and what you're trying to say to the world. And we're talking the 90s, so we're talking a lot of let's say, I mean, you had Basquiat, but you had a lot of other artists that were starting to do sort of interactive, and irony was the key thing at the time and stuff like that. Um, so in a way, it was a giant bundle of can we swear?
Yes.
Okay, bullshit. To a certain degree, and I mean that in the best way, because the environment that we, as the graduate program for fine art, sort of existed in was great. It was an educational experience in itself. The curriculum, like I said, it created these, like, people were sort of forced to, they were pigeonholed in a way and forced to like find something they were going to say. And I, for one, can tell you at the age of 24, I don't know exactly who I am and who I am as an artist. I'm there to learn. And so I found that kind of pretentious in a way. And I mean, okay, for example, you got a lot of women that did things that were maternal and dealt with womb and rearing and stuff like that. And I got pigeonholed into like a wise ass kind of, humorous type way. And I dealt with a lot of irony at the time. And I did some things that were sort of interactive, like, in a sort of push the envelope kind of way. And I failed you have in the graduate program, you have quarterly reviews, and you have professors that you don't work with that come in and see your work and aren't familiar with you and all that stuff. And I had one lady yelling at me, I should be ashamed, and my parents had me and stuff like this. And so I had to make up that quarterly review, but we managed to get through and everything. And I gotta say, can I continue on with this thought?
Absolutely.
Okay, is there a timeline on this?
No.
Okay. So when I came out of graduate program, here you are about all big theoretical, crap. And I went to teach at Framingham State. I was teaching for a professor I had undergrad while he was on sabbatical for the year. So I took over his curriculum. And I decided very quickly, if I'm going to be teaching watercolor, oil, drawing, all these courses, I better know what the hell I'm talking about. So I started to study on my own. And this is well before YouTube or anything like that. So I started getting books on artists that I really liked and admired. And I guess we're going into, that realm of, who you look at and stuff. But there was a watercolorist named Charles Reed. He passed away several years ago, but if anybody might remember, he did years back. He did the LL Bean catalog. So you would have a little pair of bean boots like in the corner or like as a header almost. And Charles Reed did that. But he did these wonderful, like loose, sketchy, spontaneous watercolors. And so I started like really researching him and looking at what he's doing, what makes his work strong, what makes it pop, and all that kind of thing. Um, it wasn't until I started teaching that I really started to really understand what I was supposed to be doing with pen, paper, brush, canvas, paint, and so forth.
Oh,
So,
that's really cool.
yeah,
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Westboro, Mass.
Okay. Did you do art when you were a kid?
I did. I was always the guy that was like picked to do the poster for something. I mean, even like, like Cub Scouts and stuff like that. I always had the sort of creative flair. So I was the one that was like, hey, can you do this for me? Can you do this? Like posters and signs and stuff like that. So yeah, I did art as a kid and stuff, but I wasn't a savant. I wasn't like selling $10,000 paintings when I was a kid. I'll let you
Um,
know when I'm selling $10,000 paintings as an adult.
this one's happens to be my favorite subject.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be a little bit out of left field for you, but
Yep.
do you have a favorite colorway for your art? And is that colorway different or the same as the colors that you pick for your
By
house?
colorway, what do you mean? Palette?
Yeah.
Okay, yes. Okay, as you just walked in, my house is under construction. It's being painted as well. Blue. Blue all the way through. Blue is a dominant theme throughout my work. Um, I think it's because I'm a redhead or was a redhead. And so you couldn't wear a lot of different colors when you were a kid. So blue was always a safe bet, but I've always gravitated toward blue, different shades of blue and stuff.
Yeah, it's a common
So
color. And your eyes are blue.
yes, yeah.
So describe where we are, like the your studio.
We're in a tiny third bedroom of a 3.5 bedroom Newport cottage. And above us, we have a full size attic. And next to us, we have a half bedroom that I'd like to turn into a staircase and blast up into the attic. Dormer, put nice, like, balcony, French doors up there, get some light going on, couch, stereo system, that kind of thing. But no, I'd like to open up the attic and because we're pretty crowded in here. I trip over paintings. I've so
I like tiny spaces.
yeah. I mean, my studio is in my house, so what I typically do is paint in the evening. And so my routine is, I don't have a normal job. I own a bar and I own a market. So I kind of go back and forth and, I've got two dogs that I deal with and stuff. But when the night is kind of settled in, I generally come up here and put on music and, lose myself for a couple hours.
I love that.
Yep.
Did your school system support your interest in art when you were growing up?
Um, yeah. I mean, I grew up in the 70s and 80s. So there was definitely some push. College was a little bit different. And then it was funny when I went back to teach at college. I mean, there's a lot of people that like to take an art class or think they can take an art class because it's an easy, like gym requirement or something like that. But there's only a handful of us out there that sort of display the talent, and it doesn't necessarily have to be talent I'm drawn to, but you can recognize it. And but yeah, there's a bit of a fostering mentality. I have no idea about my hometown anymore. I have no idea what the art program is like there or anything like that. So, but my parents always liked
There you go.
it.
How do you see your work evolving or changing in the future? Do you have anything planned?
Um, Bigger. Hence the need for bigger space. Um, I like to get really involved with the painting, and I sort of almost dream in painting, and I want to have big giant globby tubes of paint. I want big palettes. I want palette knives the size of trowels for laying brick. I want to be able to scrape and apply and let things drip, and sort of not be as controlled and tight as I currently am, and just sort of be a little more expressive.
I love that.
But it's got to be legitimately expressive. It can't be like a bullshit like throw paint and be like, look at that, that's awesome. You know.
I get
So.
it. So that actually leads me to my next question.
Mm-hmm.
Is making art emotional process or strategic for you?
Uh, I would say it's born in me. I need to do it. Um, I went for a long time when I started Poor Judgment. Uh, I kind of went for a long period of time without painting. And my creative outlet, I always needed a creative outlet. My creative outlet was creating the bar. And it was sort of like creating the environment there, and the handwriting on everything, and the sort of feel for the place and stuff like that. As time goes on, I spend less time there. I really haven't, well, I shouldn't even say really. I haven't had a drink in just about 5 years. Um, so I don't spend nearly the time there that I did back, when we started. And for me, this is like exercise. It's something I need to do. It's something I like. I have a show coming up, but even if I didn't have a show, I would still be working at least 5 nights a week kind of situation.
That's very cool. Can you walk us through your creative process from idea to finished piece? Is that possible?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. Currently, I am. So when you're in school, you kind of taught don't work from photographs, and the reason is that first of all, a camera already creates a composition for you, but then it also sort of distorts it. And so the ability to like render on your feet and see composition and see light and see color and value and how it ties together is essential for development. As you get older, and sort of where I'm gaining sort of inspiration for work, uh, a lot of this work here, and we're a static camera, so you're not looking around, is taken from a bike packing trip that I did in Maine. And so I like to go out do some adventure, like a bike packing trip for, we did 300 miles from Quaddy Head, which is as down east as you can go, to Portland. Um, and I like the ability to capture stuff, bring it back, and then I go through and I select the photos that I think speak best and all that stuff. And I like things that are like sort of atypical in composition and sort of subject matter and stuff like that. It may be a typical landscape, but the way you're looking at it is a little bit different. And what makes it unique and what draws me to it and stuff. And I can't always explain why I'm drawn to certain imagery, but there's certain things that I'll be out on a bike ride, even like I'll go over to Westport, I'll be biking by something. I'm like, that would be a cool painting. And I got to stop, go back and like take that shot and then work from it. So there's a piece over here of that Bronco
Oh, yeah.
that's a case in point there.
I draw from photographs too.
Mm-hmm.
How do you combine the art that you love to make and the art that you sell?
Well, I'm a whore. I'll sell anything. So, um, I have never been on the real high side as far as the pricing. I'm about ready to have my third or my fourth show. I can't remember at Cuss Gallery, which is on Broadway, and I've done pretty well through there. I've always like whenever I've had a show, I've always done pretty well, like, moving inventory and stuff like that. So you kind of know it's like putting an album together. You sort of know what the hits are. They're not all, you can like them all, you can love them all, whatever. But there's certain ones that are going to be like sort of received a little bit better and stuff.
So, how do people find your art to purchase? And we'll put that, whatever you say, in the show notes too.
Okay. So there's Hank Whitin art, spelled Whitin, on Instagram. I have a website that's not really up to date. And then I have probably all the artwork, I think, at this point in Poor Judgment. So a lot of people see it that way. And then I show as much as I can. So I get involved in this has been a nice opportunity for me. So having solo shows through a legit gallery and, being able to, reach an audience that's bigger than Newport. So like I sold something to some guy that was in Texas last time and stuff like that. So very little of the art I'm selling is coming from online ordering or anything like that. I'll get a commission for a dog portrait here and there, but most of it is coming from word of mouth and coming from people that have seen the work and stuff like that.
I love that. Can you share a recent project or a piece of work that you're particularly happy about?
Uh, well, I can say a recent body of work. I'm really psyched about this body of work because I think that it's getting from it's getting to where I sort of see what I want in my mind, and it's going from purely a representational to sort of an emotive interpretation. I think that art gets really stagnant if you try to just recreate what you see as you see it, or as a camera would see it or whatever. I think you gotta do things that. So I'm starting to think in terms of like the language of um, really subtle color nuances. Like how does the composition drive you through the image? And so I'm pretty pleased with the last body of work. There's a couple of paintings that stand out, but um, I'm pretty happy about it. The other part of that too is I listen to music, and I am not one of those guys that's creative from, you know, that I deal in the language of music, and I wouldn't read music, and I can't play an instrument or anything like that. But I listen to like usually Replacements Radio, James and McMurtry, Sonic Youth. And so I kind of like getting into like brushstroke and getting like an emotional quality through the canvas of what I'm sort of like, inspired by musically and stuff.
That's pretty cool. How do you stay motivated?
It comes naturally. I have to sort of do it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Are there any artists or creatives who have influenced or inspired your work that you could remember the names of them?
Well, I mean, there's a whole list of I mean, it's the art world from when I was in grad school is completely different than what it is now. And the influx of social media. So I guess where I'd like to go is like see more followers and get more visitors to, my site and stuff like that. But there's certainly, I mean, there's a whole like world of artists that you come across on a daily on Instagram, and it's just like so cool. And if you really like them, you go back in, you check out their whole bio, and then if they got a website, you go check that out and stuff like that. So there's a lot of artists that are current that I really look forward to seeing their work, what they're coming out with and stuff like that. Um, for me, I've kind of said I'm 57. So at 56, 55, 56, I kind of created a later life 5-year goal. And that is to go from like a bartender, a bar owner, bartender, bar owner, that people are like, oh, I didn't know that guy could paint, to like a full-fledged artist that people were like, oh, I didn't know that guy owned a bar. um that's my life goal. All right, and if we really want to go for it, I'd like to get a van and carry two of my bikes at all times and travel the country and paint along the way, have a home base, come back and paint, and get situated in a gallery here in Newport, perhaps a gallery in Portland, Maine, perhaps a gallery on the West Coast, and maybe something in Chicago. So, nothing ambitious, but let's just get the word out.
Amazing. What advice would you give to an aspiring artist looking to pursue a career in the arts?
I don't know. Because I am so analog. I don't have any computer skills whatsoever. So I can't, I mean, if you differentiate like, somebody that's got graphic abilities and something that's like a usable trade, I mean, what I do is not a usable trade. It's something that, a small percentage of people will gravitate toward and really admire and stuff like that. Um, I I think you do it for yourself. You don't do it for, obviously you love response, you love some feedback, you love, some form of acclaim of some sort or whatever. But just do it for yourself, you know. It's the, your own creative process and evolving at all times and stuff like that, I think is the most important thing.
I love that. What is your favorite book, movie, song, or podcast?
Uh okay. So podcast, I lately been watching these two women that have this their historic hysteria something another, but they have this podcast called This Fucking Guy, and they'll do a deep dive into the background of some guy and sort of like get to the basis of why he's this fucking guy. Um, and that's Alicia, and I can't remember the other woman's name, but it's Hysteria is what it's under. I've enjoyed that. Lately it seems like it's a lot of political stuff. Um, I kind of like the disgraced Lance Armstrong. I'm still a big Lance Armstrong fan, and he's got a podcast called We Do and The Move that I watch on a regular. Um, other, bike. Actually, you know what? There's a lot of cyclists, a lot of adventure cyclists that do podcasts that I watch that on a regular too. I'm currently corresponding with this Welsh guy named Matt Ryder, who just rode across the country, and I was dying to go down and meet up with him in between Pittsburgh and DC on the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal Path and finish up his cross country journey with him, but I couldn't make it happen. Um, book. I'm an avid reader, but if I had to say one book that sort of changed, gave me some like, momentum shift, I would say it was Vonnegut, or I would say Robbins with Still Life with the Woodpecker is one that would stand out. Um, favorite song of all time. I don't have a favorite song. I just like I love like favorite genres and or favorite periods and stuff like that. Um, lately I've been listening to a ton of New Order, and I'm like my parents listen to the same shit as when they were in their like teens, but I kind of go back to, the stuff I was listening to in my 20s and stuff like that. So, favorite movie is easy. That's Breaking Away. I believe it was 1979,
Cool.
Bloomington, Indiana.
Okay.
Cycling movie.
Um, is there a book that you recommend over and over again? Is that the book?
I've never recommended any of those books to anybody. Um, do people even read books anymore? I don't know. Like I
I
don't know if
listen. I
you
listen to
listen.
books.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I can't stand Kindle. I need it's like reading a newspaper online. I can't do that either. I need like the physical paper and the dirty fingers um and the same with a book. I have to read an actual book, but books like still viable. I don't know. Um Mick Herron lately. I read all the Slow Horses, that whole series. I really enjoyed that.
Okay.
So,
Is there something you want to talk about that I didn't ask?
uh, no, because I think I kind of got off subject a few times and talked about things I wanted to talk about anyway. No, but I do have a show, Cusp Gallery, October 18th, 5 to whenever. And so if you're in the Newport area and you want to come on down, it's a great little gallery. It's across the street from my bar. And yeah, come on down.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Hank, for letting us into your studio.
Oh, you
I
got it.
felt inspired for sure. You're
Okay,
very inspirational.
cool.
Much love,
Yeah.
and we'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you.